Hello, Riderflex Nation. Steve Urban here again from recruiting and consulting firm Riderflex. We provide career advice and job interviewing tips on this podcast. And if you enjoy the show, please remember to subscribe to our channel and like the episodes.
Mike Arzt on the Riderflex podcast today, the co-founder of Public Works and Battery 621. Mike, welcome to the Riderflex show.
Thanks so much for having me on.
We're connected through Ian McGregor, right, over at Scratch Labs?
That sounds about right.
It was nice of Ian to introduce us. I appreciate you calling in. You know, we give a lot of career advice and job interviewing tips on the podcast, and you obviously have a really cool story. A snowboarder from Vermont, right? Who?
Well, born and raised in Connecticut and then moved to Vermont when I was
okay.
18. Yep.
Okay, when you were 18, that's when you went to Vermont for school?
Yeah, well, I took a year off after high school, traveled. I really decided that my dream was to go work for Burton Snowboards. Yeah. So applied there, got that job, and also applied to University of Vermont for business school.
Gotcha. Okay, so you finished your 4 years there, and walk us through some early life history there before you became a business owner.
Yeah, it was solid. My 4 years was actually 9 years, but
why is that? You went snowboarding too much?
I think I worked too much.
Okay.
It was comboing working at Burton while going to business school it was awesome. I got way more out of both because of combining them. But my senior year at UVM, I took a promotion at Burton and started traveling quite a bit. And it kind of got in the way of my last few classes, which then dragged on for another 4 years.
It's okay. That's okay. All right. So early success working then for sure, and working your dream job, I guess at that point, so to speak.
Yep.
Okay.
It was. I mean, I met Jake Burton the first time when I was about 12 years old at a snowboard camp, and I'd say he was one of my biggest heroes, probably still is. But so I think early on I was drawn to kick-ass entrepreneurs.
Okay. All right. That's where the bug came from. So you didn't get that from one of your parents when you met him. That kind of kicked in right then, that entrepreneurial bug.
Well, my dad is an entrepreneur. He owned his own private pharmacy in Connecticut.
Okay.
So I often now reflect back on the three of the biggest pillars in my life now are being an entrepreneur, loving snow, and photography. And those three things were all really instilled in me by my dad. Mm-hmm. So it goes way back. He helped me build a darkroom when I was in high school. He showed me how to work hard, and he taught me that chasing snow is a really good thing.
So you were a photographer way back?
Yes, for fun.
Okay.
I don't think I ever thought I'd make a career out of it. So when I pursued Burton, I was going more in the business direction, team management, marketing, but I started shooting a lot more while I was on the road.
Okay.
Part of the reason I left Burton was to pursue the multimedia side of things.
Okay. And your profile reads that way. I was wondering what the thought was there when I did my study on you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Then, walk us through what happens next in Mike's life.
Well, Burton was a dream come true. I got to be at Nagano in Japan the first time snowboarding was in the Olympics in 1998. Traveled the world, got to work with some of the best snowboarders in the world, and definitely found my bug for getting in helicopters as much as I can. So Burton was as much of my early education as business school was. From there, I just kept chasing that kind of thing. I left Burton to go work for a media company out in California. It's kind of when internet and everything was cranking much more. That was short-lived because .com boom happened, or a bust, I should say. Mm-hmm. I kind of rode in on the boom and left on the bus like 3 months later. It was a quick run. But it was good. What it did was give me the confidence to chase the multimedia side of things more, because that's what I kind of got hired for with that job. Okay. I left there and took a job at Airwalk, which is what got me to Colorado, where I am now. Airwalk brought me in as global team manager, which quickly evolved to be over management of all snow activities for Airwalk.
Okay.
But they were also, the reason I went with them is because I was psyched to do the team management part, but they are also excited about me working on product and helping to shoot photos and video. So I even talked them into buying me a full new camera setup as my signing bonus.
Sweet.
Gave Airwalk a good 3-year run. Shitty brand, but we had a great team of athletes and a great team of coworkers, just affiliated with, just a tough brand. It's fine.
And you're honing your skills at that point,
Yeah.
just getting stronger all the time. And was that entrepreneurial bug down in there eating away at you a little bit? Were you thinking already, I want to do something on my own?
For sure. And my longtime friend and now business partner, Frank, was still out in Vermont around this time working for Burton. But even through all this time, we were talking about what is now Public Works and Battery. It was a matter of, like, I think getting our skills, our lives, our network, and everything into the same place, which I left Airwalk after 3 years, started freelancing. Frank left Burton, moved his family to Colorado, was freelancing. And then we were eventually able to merge our two worlds into one unified plan, which was the Public Works launching about 15 years ago, and then buying a building in Denver, which is now Battery 621, about 8 years ago.
So Public Works. So walk me through, because I think a lot of our listeners, they're always fascinated with how you got started, cash wise, like how'd you do that? Right. So were you were paying your bills, both freelancing a little bit, and then you had clients and you had some cash with your freelance work, and then you combined efforts and called that Public Works. And so you already had clients that you had built up individually and you brought them together under one brand. Is that how that worked?
Exactly. I'd say we're the very slow, conservative story compared to all these things you hear about these days, which is you raise a bunch of money and go 100 miles an hour. It worked out really well for me that Airwalk pretty much imploded and kind of forced me out the door. So I started freelancing at that point.
Okay.
When Frank left Burton, he did the same. So we kind of had, it was either go get another job working for the man or grind it out. So we each kind of just started grinding it out. And even once Frank was out in Colorado, we were still, he's a mechanical engineer by training, and my side's a bit more brand and multimedia. So our clients were slightly different. We were doing okay. But then as we started telling people knew what we wanted to do with Public Works, which was be really creative and, build things and shoot video and all. People kind of knew what our skills were, and a friend of ours that I had worked with at Airwalk opened up the doors for us by asking us to build a cool piece for a Red Bull event. Okay. And at this point, there was no Public Works. It was still just Frank and I just freelancing. Okay. And so we did that first job. We scraped it together, and one thing led to another. Projects started getting a bit bigger, and we were like, it's time to make this thing real. So there
was no combined LLC or anything like that. Were you guys were they just writing you individual checks? How are you guys doing that?
That's a good question. I wonder how we got paid on that first. I mean, maybe a lot happened real quick. That first check, I don't know. It might have just come into Frank or me.
Okay. And then here you go. Here's your half.
Yeah. And
we're no operating agreement, no plan or anything, no business plan, no PowerPoint.
Yeah, I sort of wrote a business plan, was what I finally graduated UVM with, but okay. And it's not like we ever looked back at that.
Gotcha.
No, I'd say we really just eased into it. And we bought the tools we needed as things happened. And
then you got another client, and then you got another, then you got another. I mean, your website, the Public Works website, it still feels, the whole design and fabrication and engineering along with the creative. I mean, that's what the website is, right? It's you and Frank and those skill sets. Is that right?
It is. The Public Works has grown because of the rest of the team that we've been able to put together.
Right.
It keeps getting better as we get better people. But I mean, we generally say we're a creative agency. I think what makes us different than others is that we execute with ourselves on most of the creative we do. Okay. So if we're coming up with a cool brand film idea, we take that from ideation and storyline all the way through to our team actually shooting it, editing it, and delivering. Same on the kind of the built environment side of things. Our team can do design and engineering all the way through welding and woodwork and all that stuff in-house at Battery 621.
Gotcha. And how many employees do you have now?
We're probably hovering somewhere around a team of 15. And that's, we don't want to be a huge agency. We want to be a lean, creative, very effective team.
Was it scary hiring the first couple of employees and going, okay, I'm going to let you do the creative work and I'm going to let you take the pictures instead of me, and then handing your brand and your reputation over to somebody else to do the work? Was that a little nerve-wracking?
And it still is. I think that's part of, building a good brand and believing in it and protecting it. But there's nothing better than the first time someone else goes out and does what you thought you were the only one that could do.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And now we have a lot of people like that. And I mean, I was just on a conference call yesterday that was a first round. It was a first talk with a potentially new client, and I didn't say a word on that conversation, and it felt amazing.
It felt really good. You're probably super, super proud of not only the brand, but the people and your team. I mean, that is a good feeling. Scary, but also a great feeling when they can knock it down, right? I remember when Riderflex placed the first candidate into a client that I didn't touch. And I actually saw the social media post about it and thought, oh, wow, that's the first one I haven't been involved in. And I felt the same. I was super proud. Yeah. So I know exactly what you mean. When you, let me back up just a tad. At some point, did you guys draw up an official company, and are you the only two owners at this point, or did you ever take on cash? Let's talk about some of that.
Sure. So with Public Works, Frank and I are the only two owners. It's the LLC.
Okay.
We did eventually do a operating agreement and some of those things that you pay someone to help you with.
Right.
When we bought the building in Denver, we did it with two other partners.
Okay.
So that LLC had 4 equal partners.
Battery 621.
Yes.
Okay.
And
gotcha.
we bought the other 2 partners out a little over a year ago.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Let's talk about that Battery 621, if you can flow into that for a minute. So walk me through your initial thought process. What it is today, was that the plan early on, or it kind of transitioned into what it is today? Can you talk us through that?
Sure. If I jump way back to when Frank and I were both still at Burton, I think we had this idea that we wanted to do an agency that would be very hands-on, from prototyping and coming up with new products all the way through to we can put the entire business and launch plan together around this. Whether we did that on our own or it was for a client was a bit up in the air, but we knew we wanted this very hands-on creative entity.
Okay.
With that, we'd always talked about having a space to facilitate that. I think in the early days, Frank and I were looking a lot more out in the mountains of Colorado, thinking a large compound, like we're looking at 1,000-acre ranches and that kind of thing.
How can we get clients to come out here and hang out, and we'll help them, and then we can go skiing in the afternoon?
Exactly. And to basically have, hey, here's this like skunk works type place. Bring your team. Let's get creative.
Love it.
I think the reality of that over time was just, it's a little harder to operate out in the middle of the mountains. So track forward a bunch. When we launched Public Works, we were doing it all out of our houses. Frank had a pretty big shop. I mean, I can't even believe the amount of stuff that we designed and built out of the shop on his property without getting shut down by his homeowners association. But we made it through that. But all through that time, we always knew that we had this dream for this larger space surrounded by just other creative people, the ability to have events. I think early on, we probably thought we would be doing a bit more educational type stuff, like bringing people in to do welding workshops or whatever. I think our vision was a little bit more like direct to kind of consumer and learning type thing. Other than that, it's kind of what has happened isn't too far from our vision. A along the way, someone that I knew through the snowboard and ski industry, I was just talking to him about this idea of putting multiple businesses into one building. At that point, we were very much looking in Denver.
Okay.
So our partner and his wife, they were ready to move their business down from Jackson Hole to where there was more of a city, more resources. So that's how our union kind of came together, of the four of us looking for a building together. And then we found the space at 621 Calumet Street in Denver, and all together we fully rebuilt the building, and it's we've got about 20 tenants right now.
20 tenants. Okay. So for the listeners that don't know what Battery 621 is, one of the original, right, or first co-working spaces in Denver. This is before WeWork and all that stuff, right?
Yeah. We tread lightly around co-working just because of what the word has become now. But I mean, really, I'd say Battery's almost a little closer to it's an office building. We just did it in a very cool, open, community kind of way.
Okay.
The reason I define it a bit different is we don't have any nomadic people dropping through for like an hour or a day.
Gotcha.
All of our tenants are pretty much on leases. Some of them been with us 8 years now.
So you guys were going to have to buy an office or a building for yourselves anyway, back in the day, right? You were outgrowing it. Frank was doing everything from his house. So you were going to have to get a space. Why not get a space and surround yourself with other cool, creative companies that you can feed off of, right?
Exactly. I mean, the reason we named the Public Works is because from the beginning, we always felt like the more we were surrounded by the public, the more energized you get from, the ideas and the creativity.
Not to mention it. I mean, I guess the reality is it helped to pay the mortgage, right? At first, because you got other tenants in there. So that was a good thing.
It's funny looking back now, all I could think of at that point was, can we afford to have this building? Like, what happens if it's costing us money?
And you don't get any tenants, and then what?
I don't know how. All I could see at the beginning was the scary side of it. I don't even think we ever talked about like, hey, this might actually be a profit center. Like we wanted to be a home for our business that ideally didn't cost us too much money.
Was there talk to me about super scary moments early on where, you're waking up in the middle of the night in a sweat or something thinking, man, I don't know, is this going to work? I mean, did you have to put your house up, or did you have to take out, what kind of collateral did you use for that property? I mean, I don't know, anything like that. Scary moments.
Yeah. I feel like those are most of my nights. And then every once in a while, I think that's at least how I go through being an entrepreneur, is like just total scare of failing gets you up in the morning to try again. I think the scariest part was definitely going into the purchase of Battery. And not only were we buying it, but it was pretty much an abandoned cement shell. So we're trying to recruit tenants, sign leases, buy the space, finance it, and go through all the construction meetings and budgets and everything of rebuilding a 30,000 square foot building.
All at the same time, while also running the Public Works and, servicing those clients.
Yes. And our largest client for Public Works is Spyder, who makes ski apparel. So they were our largest client for Public Works at the time. They were also coming into Battery as the largest tenant with their global showroom. And they had a hard deadline that we had to be done by to host their global sales meeting, which we hit. And that was the first big party at Battery. It was 300 people.
Gotcha.
So you stack all that together, and it was super stressful.
I bet.
I remember my wife saying, like, whatever, just shut up, stop even talking about this whole idea for 15 years or whatever, just do it, just don't lose the house. And I was like, no, if we screw this up, the house is gone. Like, everything's on the line.
On the line.
I rolled my my retirement plan that I had from Burton. Everything personal was on the line, borrowed a bit from my parents. Frank scraped together all his side, because the way we did it was we each came in. We had to hit 25% of the loan commitment in cash. So essentially we had 4 owners coming up with that 25%.
Wow.
And
I hope, let's just let that breathe for a minute. I want the listeners to just take that in for a minute. I had to borrow some from the parents. We both emptied our 401ks and our savings. We put our houses on the line. Yeah, that, there was probably a few sleepless nights in there. When did was there a point where you're like, okay, this is going to work. I feel I can sleep now. How long did that take?
well, we were lucky that we had been talking to so many companies, like just friends around this area, like Spider and Icelandic Skis, Company B. There were a bunch of companies that we had been talking to. They even walked the building with us when it was just, abandoned. So we had a group of people that were kind of on board with what the idea was.
Okay.
We started signing letters of intent and leases even before we went to closing on the building.
Wow.
So we were probably 70 to 80% leased, well before we even opened the building.
Okay, that helped. That's a good thing.
So then you're hoping that, okay, if all our spreadsheets are actually accurate, that this looks like it's going to work. So at least we weren't jumping in completely blind.
When you were working on getting the building closed, how much volume, if you don't mind, was the public works doing a year? Like, how big was your business at that point, roughly?
Small.
Like under $1 million?
Yeah, under $1 million.
Under $1 million. Okay. All right.
Yep.
Wow. That is a ballsy move, my friend. You're like, let's just buy a building.
Us and our partners were both small tenants in the building.
Gotcha.
So we weren't taking up or covering a large part of the cost, which is good and bad, right? Yeah.
And now, how many years has it been? Battery system.
I think we're about 8 years from purchase.
Great. I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome. And now, which business is bigger? Which LLC is bigger for you?
Gross. Public Works is bigger.
Is it? Okay.
We do have 2 other companies. I saw
that.
Supple Collection is a furniture company, and Cirque Distribution is material distribution. The quick and simple is just that it's really very vertically integrated. We own the building that we work in. Public Works came up with a lot of design ideas, which turned into a furniture company. And then Cirque Distribution supplies the materials that we build the furniture out of.
I saw that when I looked up your info, and for the listeners on this podcast, they can learn a lot from that if they study your background. It's like, hey, here's a way for us to basically start another company because we're designing this furniture anyway. So let's just start another LLC. And I'm guessing legally you got it all separated and protected. So if one of them goes down, you're okay. I mean, it's a great move. I don't know if I think they're sister companies, but anyway, my point is, yeah, you guys have taken advantage of that and done a really good job. I mean, really impressive what you've done to this point. I think that's great.
I would say the jury's out. I'm about to go to a 2-day business conference on scaling. I would guess that I'm probably going to listen to a bunch of stuff that's telling us that we're doing everything wrong, but we'll see how this conference goes.
You're a super humble guy too, which I really appreciate. For those entrepreneurs that are listening, well, let's call it the wannabe entrepreneurs, the ones that have an idea or maybe they got a product or something, and man, they really want to start their own thing, but they're scared, right? They're married or they have a partner and they got a mortgage and they got a car payment, and they're having those thoughts like, well, okay, well, what if it doesn't make it? Then what do I do? And I only got $25,000 in savings, and if I put all that in, I got nothing else. And all those risks, those fears. What would you say to those people?
I think the sooner you just go for it, the better, because life doesn't get any easier, right? I seriously questioned why it took us so long to get to doing battery, to where then I had 2 small little kids and life seemed a lot harder.
Gotcha.
And then you roll right into college and whatever else. It never gets any easier, right? So go for it when you're young and maybe you don't have a mortgage and maybe you're not married yet or whatever. Just go for it.
Just go for it.
I think the other thing is it's always scary. I mean, I think if you're not scared, there's probably something wrong with you. But I think the nice part about that to me is that fear fuels you. It keeps you going, because once you commit, you can't fail, right? Like, why would you chase something that you're not going to see through? It's going to be scary, but that also keeps you just leaning into it. We like to say, like, in the ski side of things, it's kind of called getting over your tips. And getting over your tips means you're a bit out of control. It also means that you're really leaning into it. So
Love it. Love
as
that.
As long as you don't completely yard sale. And then if you do, you've probably learned a lot. The other part, I think, is you're scared. So is everyone else, right? Like, how many people do you talk to every day that have an idea or something? Everyone's got ideas.
Yep.
The difference is who chases it, right? So if you're scared, so are the other 10 people that might have a similar idea. But if you're the only one that actually pursues it, you just thinned out 90% of your competition just by giving it a go.
Great point. Great point. Great point. What about being an executive for the first time and having employees? What advice would you give an early founder that is also now suddenly a CEO and has 10 employees? What advice would you give, and maybe what are some early things you learned?
Once again, we took it real slow. I'm proud to say that Ian, who was the third person to become part of Public Works, is still with us now.
Great.
I think that's
awesome.
Mm-hmm. And I look back and laugh at where we all were in our lives then compared to now, right? But I don't know. It's like employees are part of that motivation too, right? You want to serve your clients and you want to do the best work possible. Mm-hmm. We know that our most important asset is the people willing to work hard with us. So it's a super motivator to me that our business needs to continue to do well if we're going to take care of the people that work with us, and we're going to take care of our community, maybe have a bit left over to do some, donations to organizations we believe in. Mm-hmm. So, the employee part is just one huge test of that. Like, right now I constantly look at that and I want to do better for those people because they deserve it. It's never enough, but you want to be competitive. You don't want people stressing about their finances. And now when I look at not just the people we have working for us, but their dependents, like whether they have rent payments or mortgages, like this trickle down effect now of like, if Frank and I screw up now, it's not just us, right? There's people counting on us.
That's very authentic, my friend. You can tell that's real when it comes out of you. And I'm sure that's a huge reason for your success, is because you've done everything you can to take care of your people. It is true. Now, even Riderflex, as we have employees, there's probably 10 people working full time. And it's hard for me to explain to people when you are a founder or an owner of a company and suddenly you've built something that's taking care of other families and it's paying their mortgages and putting their kids through school. And you're right, those people are depending on you to make the right decisions for their livelihoods as well. It's a special feeling. It really is just hard to describe. And then you're right. You're like, okay, I want the brand to do good. I want the company to do good, and I want us to make money. But I also have Kelly and Colleen and Marcy and all these people depending on us to make sure it goes right.
I think the funny part, right, is if you're doing an all-team meeting and you look around the room and all of a sudden you're like, wow, this 1 hour meeting is costing us 15 hours, right? Of people's time. That part is the scary part. I think the funny part is when you do an all-team gathering, like a holiday party or whatever, and you see all those people and you see their kids and everyone together. The last time we did that, I was looking around and I was like, whoa, there's a lot of people counting on us right now.
Right. Yep. One of your employees brings up little Johnny, Johnny's 8-year-old. I want you to meet Johnny. And you're like, oh, okay. Yes. Now I have more pressure. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh man. When you're interviewing people, when you're trying to decide, on a new person for a position at the Public Works. Talk to me about what you're looking for in a candidate. What do you, whether it's character traits or personality, what are you looking for?
I would say it'd be awesome to hear everyone's input on this from our team, but me speaking just from my gut, that we look at personality and kind of drive and passion and that kind of stuff first. In our business, it's not that simple. We can put together, a job description, and it's what we expect we need that person for. But the reality of it is that that's probably going to evolve and change pretty quickly. So
right,
the kind of spirit, and so the kind of spirit they bring to the team is so important, because we're going to have hard days and there's going to be challenges, and we're going to be reacting to a client that maybe we know the client's wrong, but we got to take the high road and just, persevere. So personality, but followed by, I think when you look at someone's skills too, it's sort of just another definer of what kind of person they are, right? If someone comes to us with, hey, I'm a really great welder or whatever, it's like, all right, but what else? But when someone comes in and they're like, I freaking love welding, and I'm also learning some CAD, and I'm all right at woodworking, and I love snowboarding as much as I can, and hiking and being outside, and it's on and on. It's every single one of those little touch points. And we're not saying people have to be like, not everyone on our team is some extreme athlete or something. We just want to know that people are driven because they're fired up by life and chasing their passions and backing it up with skills.
I love that. You said something there that I think is really key. You said, I'm hiring somebody that fits our culture, and because I may need them to do something different next year, or their job may tweak or change or whatever. I want to hire somebody that has bandwidth. I want to hire somebody that fits the culture overall, because their job's going to change. They're going to grow professionally. They're going to learn more things, and they may end up in another position. I think that's huge for medium to small size companies to hire that way. Hire. I always have said, if they have a great personality, great work ethic, good references, they fit your culture, and they have 70% of the current skill set you're looking for, go for it. It doesn't have to be 100%, because they're probably going to be in another position 2 years from now anyway, especially if you're a small growing company. So couldn't agree more. I think it was critical what you just said right there. So now that you've had all this success, I'm pouring the pressure on you. And congrats to you and Frank too. By the way, I was, of course, doing a bunch of homework on you guys before the call, and I saw a YouTube clip of Frank being interviewed at Battery 621. And so, please pass along my praise to him as well. Congrats for what you guys have done.
Yes.
When you now at the age of, I don't know, you're probably, what are you, probably 38?
Yeah. Is this
Oh, the camera wasn't working.
I'm 45.
So at the age of 45 now, if you could call that kid back in Vermont, let's say he's 19 years old, what would you tell him?
Oh, so much. One, that 45 is way more fun than it sounds when you're 19. And that stuff's not over. You just gotta, chasing the career that makes you happy and not just confines you to something you hate every day is number one. Yes. But I don't know, when I look back at it, what I really appreciate is starting at Burton. It was a company that was the heyday of kind of the snowboard industry. It was surrounded by probably 200 other people that were all amazing people working so hard, and it taught a really good work ethic. And that if you just keep working hard and try to be a good person and be fair to other people, some of those people I met back then when I was 19 years old, one of them's president of a very large outdoor company now, who just brought us in, and we did a shoot for them about a week ago. So it's not a handout. He didn't call us because I'm his bro.
Right.
I always tell people it's the opposite. Like when your friends call you, you work twice as hard because you're not going to let them down. And he got there by working hard. I think we're where we are by kind of working hard and just being good to each other. That's the part that's like, I can't believe 20 years has gone by, but I just love seeing how well all my kind of Burton and snowboard industry alumni friends are doing.
That's cool.
And I think it was because it was a really gritty industry. There was never like a huge budget to solve everything. It was like, we're gonna figure this out. We might crash a couple rental cars on the way. And
that's so funny. That's so funny you bring that up. I did that too early in my career. Crashed a rental car and had to tell my boss about it.
Yeah.
I think what you were just clarifying there for the listeners too is hey, get a job early on if you can that matches your passion, and be around good mentors and people that can inspire you, right? Because it sounds like you got a lot of that early on, which made you who you are today, or a lot of it did.
Yeah, and surround yourself by people and a company that just support you, but also challenge you to be better every day.
Love it. I love it. So what's Mike's core purpose now in life? And by the way, let me just push you beyond the family answer, because, let's go. You can't use wife or kids or anything. Let's go beyond that and try to force you to go past that. What's Mike's core purpose when he wakes up?
Get through the day. Well, it's not an easy answer by any means.
It's not. No, it's a tough question. Yep.
Well, I talked about it a little bit with a couple of our guys earlier, because this whole scaling idea, we were talking about it because this conference coming up. And for a while, the idea of scaling, it bothered me, because often you're getting hit by people and they're like, all right, whatever, you're $1 million today. Like, why? It looks like you're doing good stuff. Why aren't you $20 million or whatever? And I hate that idea that scaling has to be this, like, just more money, more money, more money. Mm-hmm. But now I've tried to transition my thinking a bit, which is, if we can scale by being a better, more efficient and more creative group, which then results in more profitability, which then gives us the ability to do the kind of work we want to do, that to me is the kind of scaling that makes sense to us. Okay. We just did a project with Thor Industries, who's the largest manufacturer of RVs in the world. They own companies like Airstream and Keystone and Jayco. Mm-hmm. Awesome company. For the last several years, we've also been doing volunteer work with a nonprofit based in Denver called First Ascents. They do life-changing trips for young adults with cancer.
Okay.
So we had these two relationships going. We kind of found the right need, and it was a unified need to bring those two entities together. And this summer we did a shoot around Thor Industries provided 7 RVs to host a remote whitewater kayaking program for First Ascents in Montana. We were the agency in between a large publicly traded company and a nonprofit. The content that came out of it is so awesome. The videos that already had over 250,000 views on Thor's Facebook. But great. Thor is also right up to the CEO. We were just out with all this whole group was together a week or two ago. The CEO, the board of directors, the executive team, we're all right there with First Ascents, just talking, high-fiving, committing to the partnership. And to watch that go down, I mean, if we can help to facilitate more of that, because I mean, I can look at it now and be like, we were volunteering time to First Ascents. We also donated some money, as you know, when we could, but what that project just accomplished was way bigger than we could have ever done on our own. So we helped to facilitate, but it was much bigger than us, and that felt really good.
Yeah, that's great. You know, if you can build a company and make money and feed your family and do good things in the world to help people and make the world a better place, if you can do them both, it's a super awesome feeling, isn't it?
Yeah. So there, you just answered the question for me. That's what I want to do, and snowboard more with my family and go places.
So you're still snowboarding there. You got the knees for it. Your legs are holding up fine.
Yeah, I just got second rebuilding on my ankle, and no, it's been feeling good though. Got a bunch of trips planned this winter. We did a private takeover of Silverton Mountain in Colorado last year, and took 61 people, including Ian, who introduced us.
Cool.
And then, so not only did we do that private takeover, but we raised several $1,000s that weekend that all went to First Ascents.
That's great.
So we will keep chasing snow as long as we can.
So wrapping up here. So if, can I use this example? I have a friend of mine that was trying to create a snowboard or a snowshoe, a snowboard that turns into a snowshoe. Like one of those guys that gets dropped off on the helicopter, and at first you're in your snowshoe and it connects, or somehow it turns into each other. I don't know. Anyway, but he had this idea, and he had an early mock-up of it. Is that the perfect type of customer that then calls the Public Works and says, "Hey man, I need help putting the rest of this together"?
That guy might have reached out to me last week.
Are you serious? Yeah. Is that Ross Snow Technologies?
I can't answer right off the top of my head, but
okay. He may have.
So yes, it could be. We could easily help design and prototype all the way through. So that could be a fit.
Okay.
It's hard to describe. I mean, like where we really excel with clients is when they tap into a bunch of the different areas of our services.
Okay.
So with Jeep, we've shot commercials for them and done photo shoots. We also built all of their brand infrastructure that's at Red Rocks Amphitheater.
I see.
And that kind of thing.
Okay.
So for a client like that, we're a one-stop call. Like you need some car displays, or you need a 60-second video to promote your activation at X Games. Like, we got it.
Okay. And for the listeners, by the way, when you check out the website, which is thepublicworks.biz, some impressive clients on there: Levi's, Subaru, Red Bull. I mean, those are just a few. So congrats on those clients you've already serviced, my friend.
It's we've been real lucky.
Yeah. Oh, Battery 621. You got any space left? If you
there's always a little bit of flexing. I think we got a space or two right now. Yeah. So
okay.
We're always down to talk.
Best way to contact you, just go to battery621.com and just go through the contact info there.
Sure. Or email manager@battery621.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is there a little bar in there for happy hour? Because if there is, I might need to drop by.
Yes, there's beer on tap. And actually, we've got a great Scotch and cigar event coming up that I'll send you the info for.
Yes, I'm definitely down for that, my friend. Yeah, put me on the list, please.
We're usually not short on adult beverages. We have a couple great clients in that industry.
Awesome. Mike, it's been a great conversation. Congratulations on everything. Really appreciate you being on the Riderflex podcast.
Yeah, and always down to help out. And if people think that I could help them in any way, reach out, because I think one of the best things you can do in life is to just help people through making some of those big decisions.
Agreed. Yep. And you've made some big ones.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Mike. And thanks a lot for calling in. We'll talk soon. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for the time.
You bet, buddy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The Riderflex podcast can be heard just about anywhere these days, but you can visit riderflex.com/podcast to learn more about us and become a supporter of the show. Send your comments and suggestions for future topics to the email address podcast@riderflex.com, or leave us a voicemail at 888-964-5876 extension 710. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great day.